Solar is on absolute fire right now. He's been playing StarCraft 2 professionally for as long as I can remember, but he's recently reached an all-time peak. As a matter of fact, spoiler alert, just last week he ended up winning the grand finals of the GSL Code S. He took down Gumiho 4-1. On that same day, he also played against Dark in the semifinals, and he destroyed Dark 3-0. Now, I'm down to cast any of those games if anybody's interested, but it was honestly very one-sided, and Solar just played significantly better. Game number 1 today, as you may have already guessed, we just looked inside of the main base of Solar, who is sending out a drone. Okay, we're gonna be rushing out the gold base right here on Alcyone. Very cool. This is one of those builds that we've been seeing pop up more and more. There's this small mineral wall over here on the map, and it allows you to grab that golden base pretty easily. Now his opponent though, we have the #1 Protoss from South Korea. Playing with the blue Protoss pieces, we're looking at none other than Hero's main Nexus. So despite the fact that Solar has been looking really good, there's no denying that Hero is one of the toughest opponents to go up against. Now one final thing to note that I think is really cool as well. For the very first time, as of yesterday morning, the very least over here in the Netherlands, Dark got overtaken by Solar for the highest ranked Zerg player from South Korea on a website called Aligalek. Now Aligalek is the most accurate statistics website for StarCraft 2 that we have. It keeps track of all of the online and offline events that are being played, and then it ranks the pro gamers. It's as good a system as we're ever going to get, and well, let's just say that Dark has had the #1 position on that website for several years now. Basically ever since Rogue went off to the military. I know that Rogue and Dark were going back and forth for quite a while. Now it's Solar, who's considered to be the highest ranked Zerg from South Korea. And especially his ZVZ has been looking insane, man. I mean, I mentioned this in the series that I've casted of him going up against Serral recently, but he really has been dominating. Like, he's been winning against guys like Serral consistently. He's won more series than he's lost against Serral recently. He took down Raynor as well. Then in the GSL semifinals, he took down Dark 3-0. All of those numbers are kind of absurd and really not something that we normally see in StarCraft. So, yeah, especially to be dominating in a mirror matchup like that, especially a Zerg versus Zerg, is very, very tricky. Alrighty, enough fanboying. We've got ourselves a gold base first, and Hero at this point has figured it out. When he went across the map, well, he still hasn't technically seen the hatch, but he saw the drones leaving the main base. He must have figured out at this point what's going on. It turns out 6 Zerglings, though, can perfectly destroy the debris over there that will allow the Queen and the Lynx to go around and get towards the other side. This does mean, of course, that the main base is a little bit exposed as well, because the Queens can't help each other out, and Zerglings without Link speed, it's about halfway done at this point. They're not going to be able to help each other out either, but yeah, I don't believe that Hero is really going to be able to achieve too much. He's decided to go for a robo facility first, and I would imagine that this is mostly in a response to seeing the gold. Normally, he's very much so the type of guy who will be going for either a Stargate or a Twilight Council first. Probably Stargate in like 9 out of 10 games. Robo facility first is a bit of an awkward one, and well, generally speaking, you do it to just put as much pressure on the opponent as possible. So, in this particular instance, we're gonna be going into a Robo Bay. This is a very committed early game here from Hero. He wants to shut down this Zerg economy as quickly as possible. And you can see right here in the income tab in the top left-hand corner of your screen that already Solar is getting a nice income advantage as far as the minerals go, despite the fact that he's got less workers. Alright, well, we're gonna be able to kill a bunch of drones though. This is not bad whatsoever. Can we get at least one more? Yep, lovely work. The Prism allowing him to pick up those units relatively easily. Okay. The real threat though is still coming. So we have Disruptors building at the 4-minute mark. On the back of this is War Prism speed also being chrono boosted out right now in the Robotics Bay. So that's gonna allow him to deal a lot of damage to the opposing units. Ultimately, these Adepts are gonna have to make room, I believe, inside of the Prism. The main downside here, though, for Hero is that it's quite tricky to actually take a third base against all of this, right? Because he's forcing out a bunch of Lings. There's really not that many units available here to, well, deal with a Zergling counterattack. I mean, we can take a third eventually, but this is by no means the fastest expansion that you can go for here as Protoss. Okay. So how much damage will he be able to do? Disruptor number 2 available. We're gonna pick him up. Has this been scouted? I don't believe so. Although he did, of course, see the timing there of the Robo Bay, or the Robo Facility at least, so he can probably put 1 and 1 together and figure out that there is a Robo Bay. Here come the Disruptors. This is the first time we're gonna see them. Yeah, very quick pull right there by Solar. We're gonna settle for a Queen here for now instead, but even though he didn't really know exactly what he was playing against, he pulled those drones seconds before the Disruptors were even close to getting damage in. We do have a Colossus on the back of this, which I do quite like. Third Nexus now finally comes up at about 5.5 minutes, which really is quite late. Here go the Disruptors once again. Okay, just a single drone. Pick him up. Get on out of there once more. So has this early game been justified? I mean, it's 6 workers, which is not bad, but keep in mind here that Solar has been forced to make a ton of units just to make sure that he only loses 6 workers. So ultimately that is also indirect economical damage. Okay, I was thinking about using the Nova, but just forcing the Zerg to scramble their drones around is apparently enough damage. Didn't really want to commit right there and get the Prism low in hit points. The Prism, of course, the absolute key here. Okay. Ooh, he loses one. Okay. I actually thought he was going to be able to pick that one up, but Hero just barely out of range for it. And ends up losing a Disruptor. As a matter of fact, that's the very first unit that he has lost so far in this particular game. Don't lose the Prism as well, though. I was gonna say, just touring around on the creep is probably not what you're aiming for. Another Disruptor will be coming up. Disruptor number 3 is already idling over here as well. I guess it's been dealing with some Zergling run-bys or maybe some Lings that were just trying to poke to the front. Prism running dangerously low, but nothing all too crazy. Alright. Here's Hero's beloved follow-up. We've got ourselves the Blink upgrade together with the +1 ground weapons. This will make his army significantly more powerful, but it's gonna be a while until all of this will really come into play. And at least for the time being, Solar can do whatever he likes. And it looks like what Solar likes to do is just move across the map. He was slowed down as far as the droning goes, but now for all intents and purposes, he does have 3-base saturation. Only 58 workers because of the golden minerals and the single gas over at the 3rd. How much work can he do with this army of his, though? Because it's very tricky to fight against Disruptors with an army that is mostly just going to be Roaches and Ravagers. Ooh, okay. That could have been a disaster. If that was me playing, that would have been this entire clump of units going down. Yeah, the +1 missile is nice. It powers up the Roaches and the Ravagers, but you really need links. Oh, no. Oh, no. Okay. Well, you know what? That could have been a disaster. But Hero had some units on the back of this. This is, of course, the Hero special, right? It's something he loves to do. He all-army hotkeys all the time, and he accidentally, well, pulls units from the wall. Now it's Hero who's gonna go on the offensive, grabbing quite a few of those Disruptors, once again saving them as well with that Prism. Yeah, we have a melee upgrade on the back of this here. I think that's the right call, because you do need something to push back those Disruptors, right? And the Disruptors can be killed much better by Zerglings than they can be by Roaches and Ravagers, but it's still very risky. Up to this point, it's still only that one Disruptor that has gone down, but I don't think that's going to be the case for all too much longer. The very least, if Hero decides to stick around on creep, Solar will pull the trigger here before too long. Zealot ends up going down. Sad days. Yeah, and a Stalker as well. Ay, ay, ay. Still not bad here, though, for the South Korean Protoss. Ling run-by over here, dealt with as well. Still nothing over here in the wall-off. I mean, somebody's gotta go to Hero's computer and, like, remove the all-army hotkey, man. Like, it's so insane to me that at this level of play, that's, like, his go-to option. We've seen so many games go very well for him, but then at this point, we have 50 Zerglings running in and destroy everything. I've casted dozens of those games, and it's just... it's just very frustrating. Just makes it so much harder than it needs to be, you know? Anyways, ultimately, that Disruptor is gonna have to pay the price. I think the Prism could have had to pick up, but the Prism had to turn back around because the Zerg army decided to engage her off creep. Another Disruptor here just fell, and now, yeah, the Disruptor numbers aren't really that big anymore. Only 2 of them remain, 3 of them have gone down. And keep in mind, they are by no means a cheap unit. Ooh, this could be a bit of an overextension, though. A lot of the Banelings are getting dangerously close. Where's the Micro Hero? Finally, the Purification Novas do go forward, but I think he must have been busy macroing at home, or at the very least looking away from this fight. Took a lot of damage because of units were clumped up, okay? Ultimately, right there, the Colossus also has to pay the price, and I think he is just gonna get shut down. Yeah, you give Solar an inch, he will take everything. Oh, that was so close. Purification Nova almost destroying everything, but not quite the case. In the meantime, the Stalkers here on the right side continue the harassment for a little bit longer. But that was a very significant blunder there from Hero. Recently, I've been mentioning in videos that I think MaxPax is the new rank 1 Protoss in the world. Statistically, he already is. He already was as well some time ago, but then Hero once again overtook him. But it's these little moves that I see Hero make that really, in my mind, should not be happening. I understand this is a super hard game, right? Don't get me wrong. But that was a very significant blunder, clumping up his units late on the Purification Novas while standing mostly there, yeah, for the Zerg's army to just get it. The Zerg could just easily get us around there. It's just, it's unfortunate. We have those units not in the choke point either. I mean, there's still no unit to hold position there. And sure, he deals with it very nicely when he ultimately, you know, has units inside of his natural, right? His crisis management is great, but it's much easier if you just don't let those units in the first place. Now, this is still not quite a win right here, though, for Solar, it seems. He's running more and more units across the map, but Hero is really scraping the bottom of the barrel here, and yeah, it looks to me like he is gonna be able to stabilize. Alright, we have so many bases now, though, for the Zerg. Only 68 workers, which is really not that much. But Hero has effectively now been pushed into what almost seems like an all-in here. He doesn't know exactly how many drones there are. Now, that's a good snipe once again. I am a fan of these disruptor openers, man. They're so powerful. But yeah, if you want to take down guys, like for example Solar, you cannot really afford to make a whole lot of mistakes. I mean, I understand it can be quite frustrating though to hear that as well, because we have seen Solar lose a lot of his units as well to those Purification Novas. The thing is, Zerg units are really cheap compared to Protoss units. They can come yeah, in very large numbers without really being that concerned about losing them. Okay, those Banelings probably could have been targeted there by the Purification Nova. Now +2 melee is gonna finish up. It will no longer allow the Banes to one-shot probes, but it's still gonna certainly pack a punch right here against these Stalkers. It's really just only a Stalker army at this point in time. Solar actually trying to go around the site right now as well with the rest of his army, maybe expecting the retreat path right there from Hero to be a little bit different. Nice Nova once again, but these are looking quite desperate at this point. We need to get some sort of damage done. Okay. Is Hero in a position to maybe take another base? Yeah, Zerglings are scouting any potential locations here, so if there is gonna be another Nexus, both of those locations that are most likely are gonna be scouted. It looks like at the very least Solar did, well, get forced there to cancel a bunch of units. Prism! Oh my god, almost going down. It is gonna have to fly away really far though, and that now ultimately, yeah, allows those disruptors to get zoned away. GG is cold, and it's Solar, who really didn't make any critical errors in this game, who obtains the victory. Alrighty, game number 2. We find ourselves on the map site Delta. Let's see. Are we gonna do anything different this time around, Hero? There's no gold base at the very least to worry about. So I think this game right from the very start was probably not one, I mean the previous game, right? I don't think it was really a game that Hero wanted to play, but he was forced into it because of that gold base first. Now Solar definitely had the timings right there. I really did like the Adept harassment. I actually don't think the Disruptor follow-up was bad either, but if there's some way to maybe get the third Nexus going a little bit quicker, that would be really nice. It's gonna be a 14 hatch? Okay. 14 hatch with an Overlord is definitely not the standard. But Solar apparently, yeah, feeling confident here that he can cut a couple corners here in the early game and just not worry about any of this early game shenanigans from Hero. Interesting. Yeah, I wonder if it would have been possible for him to... Because he did save all of the Adepts, right? So he went 2 Adepts in the Prism, then he went 2 Disruptors in the Prism as well. And then the third Nexus didn't start until like 5 minutes and I think 35-ish seconds? That really seemed very late. So to put it in perspective, with a Stargate opener, which may very well happen in this particular game, the Nexus goes up at about 3:45. So you essentially have to make up for nearly a 2-minute delay, during which Zerg is gonna have a good amount of income. You have to make up for that delay by dealing damage on the other side of the map, either by like killing drones from the opponent, or of course by forcing out armies so they're not making drones. But it's a puzzle that is a little bit different, right? Especially when your opponent has a gold base. It's one of those builds that I think would have been fine if there were no golden minerals. But with a Nexus that late, you ultimately put yourself very far behind. And yeah, it just makes all of those follow-up attacks so much harder, right? So, I mean, it was still very close, don't get me wrong. I think that game would have looked very differently if Hero did not take that fight with all of his units clumped up like he had, right? If the Disruptors were rolling forward just a little bit quicker, I think he would have been okay as well. But ultimately, yeah, Solar saw an opportunity and he jumped it. You'll have to see it. Looks like, by the way, our observer tools are back. You may have noticed in the previous game that we didn't have the little box right over there on top of the gateway, and we didn't quite have the upgrades visible either on the structures. This is something that I can't add after the fact. So there's a bunch of observer tools that you can add to a StarCraft 2 game when the game is being hosted. So if you're hosting it on Battle.net, you can, well, add those additional observer tools. But if you forget adding them, I can't add them after the fact. Well, I could go out of my way and edit it all in, but that would be hours of effort for a whole lot of nothing. So anyways, I do like seeing them though. It is nice to have. We do have the Stargate this time around. So this is the style. This is the style that Hero's got a lot of practice with. Okay. It feels a bit funny to me though to call Solar the #1 Zerg from Korea, right? Like, it's really been Dark for such a long time, but yeah, Dark's been looking strong, but not quite as dominant as he used to be, like maybe half a year or so ago, and Solar stepping it up quite a bit. There are another couple good Zerg players from South Korea, but I mean, for example, I brought up Rogue earlier in this cast, if I'm not mistaken. Rogue and Dark used to go back and forth as far as like the rankings for the highest, or I guess the best Korean Zerg goes, but Rogue hasn't been playing this game in quite a while. Although, me saying that out loud, I kind of want to... Ooh, he does lose one of the Adepts. That's really rough. Yeah, you need that Adept to take the third. Ugh, now the Pulsar Beam has to be activated here to... That's not great. Anyways, let me have a quick little peek. Rogue, Liquipedia. What? Rainbow Six? Rocket League? No, StarCraft 2, the Zerg player, yeah. Okay, so apparently Rogue started up his mandatory military service on the 5th of October 2022. And I think for most players, it's something that takes about a year and a half or so. So there's a chance we're going to be seeing him again. I don't really know exactly what his plans are, you know, after wrapping all of that up. But there's a chance we're going to be seeing Rogue in maybe half a year or so from now. That'd be nice, actually. That would be really nice. There's also a chance we're going to see him in other RTS games, I guess, huh? We'll have to see, guys, but I wouldn't be surprised if he decides to dip his toes into StarCraft again. Like, even when pro gamers usually say, I'm not planning on returning to StarCraft 2. I mean, I'm gonna live a quote-unquote normal life when I come back. Usually that doesn't happen. Oh, 2 drones is nothing to write home about. 3 drones, also not great. Ay, ay, ay. Pulsar Beam still active, has to cancel it again, but obviously reactivating it takes a lot of energy. This is a flying start here for Solar. You're really looking to deal like double digits worth of damage here as Hero, especially with triple Oracle. This is not double Oracle, this is 3 Oracles. He does have a nice and quick third Nexus, I suppose, but worker-wise, you can already see he's falling behind a little bit. Maybe these Adepts can change the tide of battle. We do have a +1 melee first this time around here from Solar, which is an interesting move. Yeah, that's a lot of Adepts now too that don't really pay for themselves. So it is going to be the standard follow-up, but we see Hero doing this exact same opener very frequently. With him, well, getting like a dozen worker kills and not losing the Adepts. Can he at least kill the 4th hatchery? Queens are coming close to that as well. Alright, at the very least they're going to force the cancel. Adepts in the meantime decide to shade forward? I mean, they were dancing on the perimeter of the creep for ages. Of course Zerg is gonna have units ready to go. Quite a few Zerglings going down, I suppose. Yeah, 33 in total, and like resources lost-wise, this doesn't look horrible here for Mr. Hero, but this is by no means good. Roach Warren coming up. It's an interesting move here to go for the +1 melee upgrade. Generally, right now we see, I mean, this used to be the standard for a long time until they recently nerfed the Baneling. Most of the Zerg players ever since the patch, nice pool. They have been going for... We're killing probes on the other side, really? Probes that are transferring, I guess. Alright, well this is a mistake here from Solar. We really need to get these drones back to mining. Okay, there we go. Yeah, recently we've been seeing a lot more +1 missile first instead, ever since the Baneling got nerfed. But this is still certainly an army composition that can have a lot of potency. So it looks like it's gonna be a Roach, Ravager, Ling, Bane. A little bit more old school for sure. Here come the Stalkers. The nice advantage of having the melee attacks done is that you do indeed get Lings out with upgrades, and they are fantastic against Stalkers. Stasis wards here. Okay. Gonna pop quite a few units. Can we kill the hatch? Ooh, this is gonna be real expensive though. He does get the hatchery. Stasis ward? Okay. So ultimately, how many Stalkers? Okay, that was actually fine. Yeah, it looked like it for just a second there that he was gonna lose every single one of his Stalkers and not get the hatchery. Turns out it was only 2 Stalkers. Nice cancel as well on the Nexus. Turns out it was only 2 Stalkers right there, and then, well, he did snipe the hatch. Still though, deep onto creep, +1 melee Zerglings. Oracles are finally starting to get some kills in, but it's gonna come at the cost of all of these Stalkers. Man, that is so many Oracles. So I think Hero is trying to resolve this problem of his by just massing up more Oracles. So he's only killed 4 drones. He hasn't lost any of them yet, but we are coming up on Oracle number 6. I'm a big fan of the Oracle, don't get me wrong. If Zerg decides to stick around on Roach Hydra, or sorry, Roach Ravager for a long time, sure. However, this is a transition right now towards Roach Hydra, or maybe even Hydraling Bane. Not a bad idea either. This isn't originally the plan here that Solar had in mind, but I do think it's a good response. Hydraling Bane is one of my personal favorite unit compositions. It certainly does have counters, but when your opponent is going for this many Oracles, what are the odds that they're also going into like Colossi here, right? Unlikely. As a matter of fact, we've got a second Forge, and this is something that Solar sees coming in from a mile away. So he's looking around right now. Is there a Robo Bay? Is there a second Robo facility? Do I have to worry about Disruptors, Colossi, any of that sort of thing? Not quite the case. And if that's not quite the case, and we don't have like a big Skytos transition either, good old Hydraling Bane should be able to do the trick. Still though, Hero has secured up his 4th Nexus here at the 6 o'clock position. Charge at this point is of course done as well. Both players are on the cusp here of finishing up more and more upgrades. The same here for Protoss, even though we only see the Zerg ones over here. Groove Spines and melee attacks level 2. Those are gonna be really sweet. Lynx now running on over towards that newly acquired Nexus. Okay. They are gonna just simply roll straight into that base. Maybe they won't be able to one-shot probes anymore, but it's still certainly something that Protoss has to respect. 2 Banelings will be able to clear the job. Those Hydras are putting in so much work, man. Very, very powerful. Alright, here come the Banelings. While that dance is going on, Solar purposefully moving off creep to hopefully try and distract his opponent. Oh no. 12 probes end up going down. Wonderful play right there from Solar. Really well done, of course. So he was like, hey, look, I am fighting off creep. This is your time to shine. And Hero's like, oh, he's fighting off creep. This is my time to shine. Or my time to shine, rather. Maybe he should have shied away from it instead. Hey, nice. Anyways, that is a beautiful distraction right there by Solar, of course. Especially with like a Stalker Zealot-based army. Protoss is very micro-focused. Not paying attention to the minimap, apparently. And it's gonna be a little bit costly. Still, only 4 drones have gone down. 17 probes, however. That is a lot. Yep. We're ultimately just arriving here at Hydraling Bane. And Hero is not really in a position to start up any sort of Colossus play. Dude. Oh, yeah. It's so scary to me. These are +2 melee Zerglings, right? They could get a tremendous amount of damage done. It's gonna be... Oh? What? That was weird. Anyways, yeah, still no unit in the Wolof. It's gonna come at the cost of more and more probes. And while generally that crisis management is real good, and he's not doing a poor job over here with the Stalkers. Hero games can be so frustrating to watch sometimes. Like, the man has incredibly high highs. Some phenomenal control. We've seen him micro Stalkers and Prisms better than anybody else out there. Although these days I actually think MaxSpecs is gonna give him a run for that micro money. But anyways, then you have just what I consider to be Diamond League errors. Like, I don't mean to be mean. I don't mean to be toxic about it, but just constantly all army hotkeying your units out of the Wolof. Yeah, so you can quote-unquote solve it by warping in units when you see the problem coming up. But you could also just unhotkey one of your units and maybe put like a shield battery behind it if you want to be really safe. There are a lot of games recently that I have seen where the game is going, mediocre, right? Maybe like a 40% probability for hero to win. And then we just have Zerglings running in, and like the probability drops down to like 30%, right? And then you have the Banelings rolling in, and you know, it just keeps going worse and worse. In a way that it doesn't have to be like that, you know? It's not rocket science, you just have to not use the all army hotkey. Anyways, a couple of force fields coming in from the north. I don't know what this army was thinking they were doing. Solar, absolutely overwhelming his opponent right now. You can see it reflected here very nicely in the supply count too. Banelings coming in from the right too, so that is that mineral line getting absolutely massacred. And despite the fact that Hero, according to Aligalek, is the current number 5 in the world and Solar is the current number 6, this particular match, it wasn't even close.